ladies and gentlemen. The Integrity Commission, though, they are introducing a new oversight framework for hurricane recovery contracts. You remember what happened now with Mr. Vaz and the Starlinks? The Integrity Commission is putting in a framework, ladies and gentlemen, so that they can better track the hurricane recovery contracts, because a lot of procurement breaches been happening, and minister can tell you that they will never apologize. They will never apologize for what they did, and if they could do it again, they would. Blatant, ladies and gentlemen. Our leaders are letting us know that they don't care for what is written. They don't care for what is on the books. The Integrity Commission is now going to introduce a new oversight framework for the hurricane recovery contracts. But we need something like this, ladies and gentlemen, because a lot of people still don't get even aid. We need something to properly regulate what is happening in this country. Don't tell me about NARA. We don't want to hear nothing about NARA because the opposition is not even a part of NARA. So we don't know what NARA is doing. They're supposed to select some CEO soon. We don't hear anything about that. We need an independent body, ladies and gentlemen, something separate from this government. They have no intention of including us. So the Integrity Commission is saying, listen, we are going to have to implement a framework, an oversight framework, because some of these contracts, ladies and gentlemen, that the government is engaging, a lot of them are nepotism contracts, them there. Friend and company. People are benefit. You don't hear what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen. Look at what is happening in our country.
Telecoms Minister Daryl Vaz, as he rejected the Auditor General's report stating that he breached procurement rules when Starlink devices were bought after Hurricane Melissa.
Mr. Vaz also labeled some of the Auditor General's findings as uninformed and grossly inaccurate.
Now, the parliamentary opposition has, however, raised serious concerns and called for full disclosure.
Here's Andrea Chisholm with the details.
Telecommunications Minister Daryl Vaz.
I make no apology whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I go further. In circumstances such as these, if I had to do it again, I would do it again.
The reference is to the Auditor General's report, which showed that the minister breached Section 20 of the Public Procurement Act when he initiated the purchase of 200 Starlink devices for roughly $12 million. The Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management ODPEM was later told to pay for them. Vaz initiated the purchase of the Starlink devices as co-chair of the Relief and Recovery Oversight Committee to address recovery efforts due to Hurricane Melissa. But the Auditor General pointed out that only the accountable officer or head of entity is legally empowered to initiate the procurement, and there is no provision in law for the minister to select suppliers or give directives to ODPEM for payments. Additionally, the Starlink devices were delivered to the Office of the Police Commissioner on November 14, 2025. Formal approval was not granted by the Director General of ODPEM until November 20. But for Mr. Vaz, he did not breach procurement rules, and he described some of the Auditor General's findings as uninformed and grossly inaccurate. He said his actions were in keeping with the guidance note on the acquisition of goods and services during an emergency, which was issued by the Office of Public Procurement Policy. Vaz said that he acted quickly to ensure people were connected after Hurricane Melissa, and the requirements for employing emergency procurement procedures were satisfied. In the meantime, the opposition PNP says the matter underscores growing questions about transparency, accountability, and the management of public resources.
I wish to point out further that the issue is complicated by the minister's own public statements. On November 1, 2025, Minister Vaz announced that Jamaica had received 700 Starlink units as a donation in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa, presenting the devices as emergency support for national connectivity. Jamaicans are entitled to clear and consistent answers. If 700 Starlink units were declared as a donation, the public must now be told why a subsequent purchase has been made and now been flagged by the Auditor General.
In response to the opposition statement, I simply say to Philip Paulwell, the leader of the opposition, all members of parliament in the affected areas, both opposition and government, plus mayors and councillors on both sides were recipients of Starlink to allow them to be able to better communicate with the responding agencies and their constituents. So I'm not quite sure what they are complaining about.
Andrea Chisholm, TVJ News.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, Minister Vaz, he has missed the point entirely. He said that he's not sure what the opposition is complaining about. The issue is not whether or not the opposition is complaining that they didn't get Starlink. You mentioning that persons from the opposition got Starlink is not the plight, is not the cry. It's not the cry, Minister Vaz. And probably we need to slow things down for Minister Vaz. Sometimes we believe that all our leaders are able to understand, simple reasoning. So sometimes we have to slow it down. Maybe we have to give him a little grace. But the concern, Minister Vaz, is not whether or not people received Starlinks from the opposite side. The question is, why did you make more purchases? What happened to the Starlinks that you received initially? And why is it that your public statements are so inconsistent? The lack of transparency, the arrogance, and the gaslighting is not pointing to credible leadership or proper oversight of what is happening. The fact that you will say publicly, boldly, that you make no apologies for what you did is the exact problem that we're having in this country. Even when leaders, ladies and gentlemen, are brought to the forefront and the proof against them is so overwhelming, they will tell you and I that they have no remorse about it. Then what is to stop these leaders from doing more damage? Damage on top of what they've already done. What is to stop them? Who can hold them accountable? Because if the Auditor General's report means absolutely nothing to Minister Vaz, if the Auditor General's report means nothing to Minister Vaz, if the opposition spokesperson, Philip Paulwell, can call him out and it means nothing to Minister Vaz, if the people of this country can speak out and it means nothing to Minister Vaz and the Andrew Holness-led administration, what is there to stop them?